Line up the 11 boys who started an under-17 World Cup match. Now sort them by birth month. It does not come out even. 46% of the players at that tournament were born in January, February, or March. 12.5% were born in October, November, or December. Out of your 11, that is 5 boys from the first 3 months of the year and 1 from the last 3. Talent does not check a calendar. Something else did. Hold on to that for the next 6 minutes, because at the Senior World Cup, the pattern almost vanishes. The filter that decides who becomes a footballer runs hardest on children and then somehow lets go. Start with 2 6-year-olds, one born on the 2nd of January, one born on the 29th of December. On paper, the same age. In life, one of them has been alive 11 months longer. 11 months at 6 years old is 1/7 of everything you have ever lived. Stretch that to a 40-year-old and you're looking at a gap of nearly 6 years. Now put both children on a pitch and ask a stranger which one is better. He will be right. He will also be measuring nothing but time. In a 2022 study, Bolckmans and colleagues examined the birth dates of 812 boys across 23 professional academies in the United Kingdom. 45% came from the first quarter of the selection year. Under 10% came from the last. For every child born at the wrong end of the cycle, there are almost 5 born at the right end. Not 5%, 5 children. Nobody in that selection room is cheating. Nobody hates December. That is exactly what makes it so hard to fix. The pattern was found by accident in an ice rink. In 1983, a woman named Paula Barnsley sat in the stands at a junior hockey game in Canada, reading the program. The program listed every player's birth date. She started reading down the column, January, March, February, January, February. She mentioned it to her husband, Roger, a psychologist. He went home and pulled the birth dates of professional players, same column, same months. In 1985, the Barnsleys published it and gave it a name, the relative age effect. Hockey Canada's cutoff was January 1st, and the sport was quietly filling itself with children born just after it. Football assumed it was different. It was not. 2 decades later, Werner Helsen and his colleagues checked more than 2,000 birth dates across 10 European countries. Every national youth squad they looked at, under 15, under 16, under 17, under 18, leaned the same way. This is not a glitch in one country's paperwork. It is the shape of the machine. So what is a scout actually seeing? Picture him on the far touchline, watching a game of 11-year-olds. He sees who reaches the ball first, who wins the shoulder, who strikes it hardest. Those readings may accurately describe who performs better that day. They do not cleanly reveal who has more long-term potential. Then the machine starts turning. The bigger boy gets picked. Being picked buys him better coaching, more training hours, harder opponents, and a shirt that tells him he is good. 3 years later, he is better. Genuinely, measurably better, because the system spent 3 years making him better. The mistake never gets caught. The mistake pays for itself, which leaves one uncomfortable way to test it. If academies are really finding talent, then moving the cutoff date should change nothing at all. The same children should still rise. Somebody moved the date. In 1997, the Belgian Football Federation shifted the start of its selection year from the 1st of August to the 1st of January, matching the international standard. Not one child changed. No genes moved. One line on an administrative form moved. Helsen and his colleagues tracked what happened next. The advantage followed the paperwork. Before the change, the boys being marked as talented were born in August, September, and October. After the change, the boys being marked as talented were born in January, February, and March. Same country, same clubs, often the same coaches. A different set of children was gifted now. This was never biology. It was a form. And the moment you see that, an obvious objection arrives. It is a good one. You could argue that birth month is a red herring, and what really matters is puberty. Some children mature early, some mature late, and a December boy can easily be bigger than a January boy. That is true. Biological maturity predicts physical performance in young players even better than birth month does. But it does not rescue the system. It convicts it twice. What the system is really filtering on is how big a boy happens to be on the afternoon somebody watches him. Being born in January is one road to that mistake. Hitting puberty early is another, and one of those roads is a date somebody typed into a database. Look at England. If January were magic, English academies would look like Spanish ones. They do not. English academies run their year from September 1st following the school calendar. So in England, the golden children are born in September. And out of the 10 biggest leagues in Europe, the Premier League was the only one with no statistically significant birth quarter skew. The study's authors suggest that a practice called birthday banding may help explain why. It sorts players by their actual birth date instead of a hard calendar line. It is a clue that this machine can be redesigned. But the real cost was never at the top of the game. It is a 12-year-old who stops turning up. Almost nobody tells these children they are not good enough. There is no meeting, no verdict, no letter. There is a list of names read out on a Thursday, and their name is not on it, and next week, there's another list. Boys start quitting around the age of 12, and the ones who quit are disproportionately the ones born at the wrong end of the year. Nobody explains it to them, so they explain it to themselves. They decide they are not sporty. They decide they were never one of the talented ones. Some of them are still carrying that sentence at 35. And then there are the ones who stayed, because they tell a completely different story. Researchers followed boys inside one English academy for years, tracking who came out the far end with a senior professional contract. Among the players already inside that academy, those born in the last quarter were roughly 4 times more likely to get there than those born in the first. 4 times. Look further up the game and the tilt keeps draining away. One study covered 5,238 professionals across Europe's 10 strongest leagues. 30% born in the first quarter, 20% in the last. The gate tilts 5-1. The elite game tilts 3-2. At the Senior Men's World Cup, the effect barely registered at all until 2014. The comfortable reading is that it all works out in the end. It does not. Think about what that reversal is really saying. If the children a system almost threw out go on to beat the children it chose, then the system was not finding talent. It was losing it, every year, at industrial scale. Go back to that line of 11 boys sorted by birth month. You have stood in a version of it, a school hall, a wet pitch, a list of names read out, and a moment where you learned something about yourself that you never questioned again. We built an enormous machine to find the best children. What it mostly found was the oldest ones in the room, and then it spent a decade proving itself right. Talent is hard to measure. Age is easy. So we measured age, we called it talent, and the children believed us.